Oh my god.
This is the story of a laundry renovation gone very wrong. But before we can get to the mother of all fuck-up fairy visits, this fresh-faced IT teacher needs to rebuild his wall in the correct place, ideally without ruining the plasterboard in the process. You see, at some point I decided it would be a good idea to strip the house back to framing and start from scratch. And you might be asking, how does he know how to do that? To which I would reply, I don't. That's why the wall's in the wrong place. I did, however, inherit the how hard can it be gene. Unfortunately, I also have a long-term house guest known as the fuck-up fairy, who won't let me do anything without making her presence known, and we'll keep track of her many visits as we go. Now to rebuild the abusive wall, I've got to get the floor nice and level, and since the renovating budget's about as healthy as my diet, I'm reusing as much as I can, and apparently forgetting that the cleanup crew is also me. I also got spot inspected by the foreman, although back then he didn't quite have the same presence as he does now, so having marked and cut the base plate, I got it fitted into place and realised I cut it on the wrong side of the line.
Bugger!
So that needed to be packed out before I could bolt the thing down.
That's better.
The base plate's going directly onto concrete, which means it needs to be protected from it with a DPC layer.
What on earth are you doing?
I just explained that. That's the Minister of Interior, by the way. She's the brains of the operation and keeps my ADHD tendencies in check.
Call that a knife? This is a knife.
That's a knife.
Wrong country, mate. Maybe quote Lord of the Rings next time.
And then build the rest of the wall.
Like I said, keeps me on track.
And then we'll have a laundry.
I needed to get the base plate location locked in before I could pour the concrete self-levelling compound. And by that I mean the royal we, because this numpty is certainly not qualified to do that. So that meant the base plate needed to be bolted in and square. I used handy brakes to bolt them into the ground, which is a bit over-engineered, but I had them on hand. Very shortly I'm going to learn a lesson about checking for your wood straightness before using it. But we'll get to that once the professionals have been to pour the concrete. The first day I came home to a beautifully primed surface, and then on the second day I was treated to a forbidden swimming pool. I've renovated my whole kitchen as well, but that's another video. Right now, this chump's got a wall to build. A lot of the timber was reusable, but I did have to replace a couple of the vertical pieces because the wall was slightly taller. And then the fuck-up fairy came to visit. Turns out that timber I used was warped in two directions, so I had to resort to drastic measures. So in this repair you cut no further than halfway through the timber, and then get some wedges. As you push the timber back to square, there's a gap that opens up, and just fill it with wood. The wedge, that is. Cheers to Scott Brown for that one. After that, the nogs pushed the other bow out to plumb, and yes, I spent at least 2 hours on YouTube trying to figure out how to fix that. The last thing to do was to fill this corner piece so that my plasterboard had something to screw to. Speaking of plasterboard, check out these gymnastics. Get it? Because it's jibboard? Yes, I shamelessly stole that from the comments section. So after a quick test fit, I got some glue on the walls and reused that busted up piece of jib. Now you might think that after realising one wall was in the wrong place, that you'd check the other one just to be safe. Well, you'll never guess what I didn't do. And since I just poured the new concrete, well that needed to be fixed as well. I'm going to be putting in dual sliding doors for the hot water cylinder cupboard, just on the other side of that wall there. The trouble is I didn't know that when I built the wall. So off to the shops for another set of handy brakes, and I went and got myself a laser level just to make sure everything would go in the right place. This time. One thing I love about renovating is there's not a lot you can do that you can't then undo, if you're willing to put in the time and effort to learn. And as it turns out, being poor is a fantastic motivator. Once the wall was secure, well I got to play with concrete after all. This is a self-levelling compound that you mix up and then pour into place. In theory it'll find its own level. In practice too, if you follow the instructions right. And by this point I think we both know the likelihood of me following instructions. But shockingly, it seems that on this particular occasion I might have gotten away with it. Either that or the fuck-up fairy was occupied around at one of your houses, because as far as I can tell, this pour went without a hitch, which means I can get on with building the other wall. Then again, there is plenty of time for fuck-up fairy visits. There's a whole laundry to build. Nope, doesn't count. Nothing broke.
Now I need to figure out the corner.
Or more accurately, how to fill the corner without buying more wood. There's nothing structural in the corner, so all we had to do was fill the space, so that I could get plasterboard up to the corner. And so, like a Lego set that's a whole lot less fun, all the off-cut pieces fit together to make this cursed jigsaw. It ain't pretty, but it'll hold jib just fine.
Right, time to go on the wall.
And on the end of the caulking gun is a Powerade lid. Turns out it makes a perfect sized dollop for drywall glue. And when you drink as much as I do, the Powerade tends to be fairly liberally on hand. In my defence though, kids. So with the last of the external walls taken care of, I could move my attention to the inside of the laundry nook. And at no point did I ever consider asking for help. So with the space finally clear and the plumbers in to do their bit, I got to work on the electrics. And then completely forgot about the insulation as I then lined the wall.
This is a problem.
Oh, you don't even know yet.
This line where I join the jib board is going to need to be plastered. And I don't want to plaster over a place where I've got to cut this out from.
Let's move some shit. And in case you were wondering, yes, I'm a Sparky, and yes, it hurts when I have to clean up after myself. And it's about now that I realise I fucked up.
It's got to come out.
We know, mate. Your secret's safe with us.
I'm going to fill it with insulation. Soundproofing.
As it turned out, it was a wee bit of a blessing in disguise, because I realised that the wall that I'd put together wasn't all that flat. So it gave me an opportunity to plane it all down. I used up the last of my acoustic insulation and then had to pop back to the shop to buy some more. And if you, like me, are a wee bit OCD, then I apologise for this next section, because I couldn't get the same brand and now it looks a bit like a chessboard. And it definitely won't bother me knowing that that's behind my walls, no. Honestly, I'm fine with it. It's great. At least it'll be quiet. With the insulation in the walls, it was time to get the jib on. I used the well-known measure once, cut twice method and transferred the pattern onto the drywall. I then drilled out all the holes I needed to and crossed my fingers, because I have never gotten this right first time before.
I think we're good.
Wait, it worked first go? So with the puzzle pieces lining up perfectly, I reattached the jib, confident in the knowledge that nothing would go wrong.
Brilliant. Happy.
Which meant I could turn the water back on. Oh dear.
Always turn a tap off before you turn the water on.
And I should probably say, don't try that at home. Leave it to the professionals. Especially if you have a resident fuck-up fairy. So having let the floor dry, I fixed the remaining sheet in place and then got ready to fill the rest. And as interesting as I know insulation is, let's speed this up a little.
This laundry is going to be closed off with bifold doors when it finally goes in. However, they need a level surface at the top.
That's the bottom.
And top, and bottom for the doors to operate smoothly. Because my ceiling isn't level, I need to add in an extra piece so that my doors can run nice and smooth. Let's see how this works.
5 bucks says it doesn't work.
Ow!
If you're wondering what happened there, I found a screw poking out with my hand. It was important that I took into account the thicknesses of the plasterboard that was going on front of this. I wanted to blend into the walls on either side so it looks relatively seamless. Ooh, you don't want to cut it from that side, mate.
Oh.
Yeah, bit of a dog's breakfast you made there. What I should have done is glued it on beforehand. But I didn't. Benefits of hindsight, eh? So after a bit of faffing about, I got the other two sides put together and it was ready for plaster.
That'll do the trick.
And because no one needs to see me plastering,
That'll work.
if only it worked that well in real life, because this chump had to take the long way around. I've also done the plastering and sanding off camera, because it bores even me and I'm the one doing it.
Oh, don't touch. It's not quite dry yet.
So after bribing the resident wrecking ball with her own paintbrush, I checked for fingerprints and then finished off the undercoat.
You're doing great colouring in the lava.
That is disgustingly sweet. And at this point we time travel slightly because the kitchen is almost ready for installation. I started in the hallway and then worked my way first to the entryway and then to the kitchen.
Ow! Ow!
So while I smacked myself with a hammer, the foreman pretended not to notice, muttering something about near-miss reports. So I went to the nurse's office and got myself a boo-boo fixer, before continuing to install all the flooring. And it's at this point that the cabinet installers turned up, to turn it into a proper laundry, and to install the kitchen. And while I was waiting for plumbers to turn up, I got impatient and wanted to wash some clothes. So I temporarily hooked up a tap to get water to the washing machine, and then made a routing hole for the hose. Or at least I tried to.
I drilled into that foot, I think. Might have to go a little further along.
And so after a couple of days of blissful operation of the washing machine, it was Thursday night and time to go to bed.
Oh my god.
I don't think water's supposed to be under the floor.
Oh.
And it certainly shouldn't be making that noise.
Oh.
It seems quite a lot of water has made its way underneath the floor. A quick investigation reveals a blanking cap that's been leaking for a few days.
Yep. That has been leaking.
Want to pull up some flooring?
Do I want to?
Yeah.
No. Will I? Yes.
Okay.
So in our snuggliest of dressing gowns and our shortest of shorts, we investigated how wet my wood is.
That's not great. Have I mentioned I hate plumbing?
No, but it is worth saying that you suck at it.
What do you think? Don't care. Okay.
As it turns out, the Plumbing and Drainlaying Association doesn't much like it when those unqualified try to do plumbing, because they gave me a rather stern talking to for this one. The Minister of Interiors, however, right there with a towel. Ooh, that's a happy camper. Now the water underneath the timber had already started to soak into the wood and swell, so I had real problems trying to get the pieces apart. In the end I had to break a few panels just to get it all out. Let's just say, not my favourite pre-bedtime activity.
Got it.
And then we could finally see the extent of the water. It must have been leaking for at least a few days to have this much water underneath. We peeled it back until it was dry and then hit it with about a dozen towels. And that water just kept on going.
Oh my god.
Rinse and repeat, literally, for all of the wet areas. And it was not a small space. I didn't have it in me to pull out the laundry on that particular night, so that would have to wait till the morning.
Pretty standard Thursday night, really.
Sadly true in this house.
Good night.
And in the morning, the floor was no longer a swimming pool.
Gonna have to lift all this today. I need a coffee first.
The last remaining piece I needed to lift was in the laundry itself.
Let's get to work.
I would have done it last night, but I really couldn't be bothered removing appliances at 11 o'clock.
Oh, right. She's a bit moist.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That is wet.
Unfortunately, I had to throw away a bunch of those pieces because they got so wet that they started to bow.
Joys of home renovation.
Love it, mate.
Love it.
That's Matt, the kitchen installer. He's finishing off the final elements in the kitchen while I blow dry my floor. I cranked the heat pump up to max the previous night just to see if it would dry out overnight. I left it drying out for around about 2 days total and then could start to get the flooring back down. I then proceeded to spend the entire weekend relaying the floor. Again, I must have properly pissed off the fuck-up fairy this time. And so there is now a new rule in the Cranky Pad. No plumbing for Cranky Pants. Now the reality of DIY is that you're gonna make mistakes. Everyone does. Me more than most. Personally, what I think is important is how you recover from them and what you learn in the process. And make sure you have fun along the way too. Eventually the whole space was remediated and I could start to get the laundry back together. And since the doors were quick release, it made getting the washing machine far easier. And with the plumber called to hook up the sink and drains, we had peace of mind again. Although I still seem to be incapable of asking for help. And of course no installation will be complete without an inspection from the foreman.
Oh, don't you put your...
He's got some pretty advanced inspection techniques.
How's his little stuff you had? Ow!
And I'll catch you guys on the next one.